Okay, I guess we're ready to get started. Is everybody? Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Eloy, you really can't hear me. Okay, good morning. I'm Julie Buckalew, in case they didn't catch that because they're watching this live stream around the state. The first thing I want to start with is the disclaimer that I was taught by the best Orlando Lucero. You got to read your disclaimer. This presentation is for information purposes only and is not and may not be construed as advice from Stewart Title of Albuquerque. No third-party entity may rely upon anything contained here when making determination regarding title practices. Stewart Title of Albuquerque makes no express or implied warranty with respect to the information presented and assumes no responsibility for errors and omissions. Thank you, Stewart Title. I do work for Stewart Title. I've been in the business since 1978, so I was in the business before, obviously, computers existed in our industry. I was in the industry when we were doing everything. We knew exactly how to use a calculator, and all of our title insurance premiums were figured manually. We didn't have, I think a lot of you probably use an online calculator when you're doing your title insurance premiums. I was taught old school that title insurance is our product, and that's what we put out to the customer, and that we should know how to calculate the premium, because once in a while, you guys know, we get that difficult customer who wants to know how we came up with that figure. And usually our response is it's promulgated by the state. Sometimes they go on to say, well, XYZ title company said they'd charge me less. So that's when you have to tell them again, we're promulgated. We are subject to, giving you discounts if they apply. They are very complicated rates to calculate. And if you don't know how to, you should. And I didn't even I flunked in math when I was in high school. And it's amazing to me that it was a mental block. And I came back to find that I love trying to figure out these rates. So I don't know how many of you in here know how to do underwriter splits, which is the next phase up. Very complicated. They have a chart, and especially when there's discounts, how much goes to the agent, how much goes to the underwriter. That's a whole different level. But as far as calculating title insurance rates, the owner's title insurance premium, everything, the owner's title insurance premium is the basic premium. Everything we do is based on the basic premium. Not, a lot of times I'll get people that say, I'm going to figure the endorsement rate using the loan premium because that's what they're getting as a loan policy. That is wrong. Everything we do is calculated off of the basic premium, which is the owner's straight rate owner's premium. And I did include in your handout a rate chart, underwriter split chart, and it has all of the breakdowns for the numbers and how you would calculate title insurance. And of course, in your handout as well, we do have the title insurance premiums that go up to $50,000. Which end up at $468. So using this rate chart, if all else fails and you're where you need to figure out a rate, it's on the weekend, the agent calls you, whatever, you could actually do it from this. I know that's not going to happen. First thing you're going to do is probably go online and look for a rate calculator. The reason we created the rate calculators is because these are complicated rates, and there were too many mistakes being made by Escrow in calculating title insurance premiums and not giving the right discounts. So that's how those were created in the first place, was to avoid errors. The underwriter splits and the sheet that you have is showing the breakdown as it graduates beyond 2 million. You'll see that the premiums, the per dollar or per $1,000 drops, and the underwriter split changes. Because obviously, if it's a higher liability, if it's over 2 million, if it's over 10 million, it's more of a liability for the underwriter than Escrow. So you'll see that the rates do change and the underwriter split changes. And if you're lucky enough to get beyond 50 million, that's a whole different ballgame. We've seen it maybe once or twice. Calculating discounts on the owner's premiums. I get questions every day from Escrow. They have a perfect example. Is a couple days ago, one of our escrow officers called me and said that the agent was asking for a discount on the owner's policy for her seller. And of course, the escrow officer said, we need a copy of the policy. Technically, you guys know, we need to have the owner's policy at the time of the order for that discount to apply. And the reason for that is the obvious, that owner's policy is going to help our title department do their search. They don't have to go back as far if they can see an old owner's policy. The agent asked if we can get that discount, and the escrow officer told her no because we don't have a copy of the policy. The agent said, well, they closed at XYZ Title Company and they've gone out of business, but they bought the house for $212,000 and closed 8 years ago. And so he called me and he said, well, what do I do? Our job is to do the best possible discount for the customer, but the regs clearly say that you have to be in possession of a copy of that policy and the schedules. So when an agent asks you, can you just go ahead and give it to them? I have the settlement statement. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So you have to have the old owner's policy. To calculate those discounts, I did some examples, which I'm probably going to go to the board to do. Owner's policies are really, really easy. They only ever get a discount up to whatever coverage they currently have, not beyond it, up to the coverage they have. So if you had an old owner's policy for $176,000, trying to write big enough so that people remotely can see that, and it's dated August 20th of 2017, that's less than 2 years. Does anybody know what the discount would be? It would be 20%, less than 2 years. So the discount, if you find the premium for that owner's policy of $176,000, and you take that premium, which is $1,092, and you do have rate charts in there, $1,092 times 20%, it equals $218.40. The new house is $213,000 coverage, and the premium for that is $1,257. What we need to do is deduct that discount from that premium. You never round up until the very end when you're doing premiums. So we would deduct the $218.40, oops, and we're going to get $138.60. Oops. I'm sorry, $1,038.60. That'd be really cheap. If it's 50 cents or lower, if it's below 50 cents, you round down. If it's 50 cents or higher, you round up. So in this case, the premium would be $1,039. Does that make sense? I hope. And if you have an owner's policy that is more than, so if we go back to 2008, when things were ugly, and you have an old owner's policy that's for $385,000, and it was issued May 16th of 2008. Oops, that's way too small for those people. For 2008, we know it's more than 3 years old. If it's over 3 years old, it's a 10% discount for the premium up to $385. But they're buying the house for $360. We see that a lot. Not as much now, but we were seeing that a lot. And again, we're not going to give them the discount from the $385,000 premium. We're only going to give them the discount up to what they're paying for it now. So the premium on 360 is $1,914, and they would get 10% of that off. Does that make sense? I hope. So they would get $191.40 off of that. So their premium would be $1,722.60. Again, rounded up. Those are fairly simple. We haven't gotten to really complicated yet. You do have cases where you have an owner that purchased a property, for instance, in the East Mountains, and they bought 2 lots adjacent to each other. And they closed both lots at the same time, but from different sellers. Then they decided to build on those 2 lots, but they wanted to maximize and use the entire 2 lots, so they built the house in the middle of those 2 lots. Now it's 2019 and they're going to sell that property. And they're still entitled to a discount from those owners' policies. So in that case, what you would do is take the combination of the 2 owners' policies and add them together and get that premium times that 10% and give them that discount. So it works the same if you have multiple owners policies, as long as it's the same owner. You know, when we used to close a lot of wraps, there used to be people getting discounts that, you know, you got to be really careful. You got to look at these policies and make sure that they are in your prior owners' names. And I noticed that a lot of wraps now that are being done, wrap real estate contracts, are being done not through a title company. And when that happens, those policies are not issued in our seller's name, or when they're refinancing or selling. So you have to be careful and make sure those policies are in the prior owner's names. They have to be in that prior owner's names. There's also, when you get into someone who has, say, 23 acres, and they're only selling a portion of that acreage. So when you get into that, a perfect example, because again, they're still entitled to a discount, but not for the whole thing. I've lost my magic marker. So if you have a $250,000 policy that was for 23 acres, what you would do is divide that $250,000 by the 23 acres, and let's say they're selling 5 of those acres. So if they're selling 5 of those acres times what you get when you divide it into the 23 acres, that would be what their discount is based on. Hope I'm not losing guys. Same thing again when they have an old owner's policy that's for $250,000 and it's for 5 lots, and they're only selling 1 lot. Then you divide the total by 5, and that's what they get the discount on. Never ever do they get more than the minimum basic premium that's on our regulated rates. And you guys have that in your handout as well. There's also the subdivider rate. We're familiar with those for builders. And that's when you have 2 or more lots in the same subdivision and they're contracted to close with the title company, with us. And if they're going to purchase owner's policies on each lot, then we will give them the 25% discount. And again, we usually call those builders rates because we know the builders are usually the ones that are developing a number of lots. And subsequent issue within 30 days, we were talking about that a little earlier this morning. We're seeing a lot of flips, and I'm sure you guys are all familiar with flips. we've seen a lot of people get very upset because we're telling them that we're not going to close without issuing title insurance, and you're going to need to pay for 2 policies. They don't want to pay for 2 policies. They don't want to pay for 2 escrow fees. But if they are doing a flip, then what we explain to them is that we will issue title insurance on both. They'll pay the standard premium, whether there's a reissue rate or the basic owner's premium for the first transaction, and as long as the second leg of that closes within 30 days, they'll pay 30% of the premium up to the first leg's coverage amount. An example of that is if you have your first mortgage for $86,000, you guys will see in your handouts that the premium for that is $672. And then if you're issuing a second policy, either at the same time or within that 30 days for $125,000, then we'll charge them 30% up to the $86,000 premium. Then they'll pay the difference in the owner's premiums for the balance. So they only get the 30% up to the first coverage. If on the rare occasion they're doing it for the exact same price, which is highly unlikely, they don't make much money doing that, then they would just pay 30% of the first premium. Loan policy discounts, and I'm purposely going faster because these are by far the most complicated. There are 3 things that you must have when you're figuring a reissue rate on a loan policy. And in looking at this room, I know one person in here that's been in this as long as I have that knows how to manually calculate the reissue rate, substitution rate for a loan policy, because of our rate calculators. And again, we're really lucky we have those smarter people than me create those calculators, because like I said, I'm not very good at math. It's scary. In order to calculate a substitution rate on a loan policy, the first thing you need is the date of the prior loan policy. The second thing you need is to figure out the number of years from that policy to the current date. And the third thing is the amount of the prior loan policy, how much was insured, the coverage amount. Those are the 3 things you need. I gave you guys a sample worksheet. I did make I left out one important fact on that sheet. Example, and I'll try and write a little bit better. I'm going to put this up. Example, if we have a prior loan policy that's dated 3/16/2003. I'm sorry, 2013. 2003 would have actually been fine. So it's 6 years. That information's already in your chart, also in your handouts. 2013, so it's 6 years old. The discount on that, if it's between 5 and 10 years, is going to be 60%. And what you're going to do is you're going to look and see your original coverage amount for your old loan policy was $213,000. You're going to look, again, everything is based on the basic premium. So that's your original owner's rates premium. So the premium on $213,000 is $1,257. They're going to get 60%. That's going to be a 60% rate. So that times the 60% is going to be $754.20. So they got the discount up to the $213,000. Then their new loan policy is going to be for $226,000. You're going to take the 90% rates. So in other words, what they would pay for the loan policy if there was no discount. The 90% rate for the $226,000 is $1,184. Then the 90% rate on the unpaid or the balance of the prior mortgage is $1,131. That's the 90% rate. That would have been the loan policy up to $213,000. We're going to do this again. So the difference between those two, so we know this is how much they're going to pay because of the discount up to this amount, but we're trying to get to the 226. So the difference between these two is $53. So in order to give them coverage up to the $226,000, we need to charge them the 90% rate, the difference of the $53, and add that to the $754.20. That would make their premium $807.20. Again, you round down $807. That cheat sheet is in there if you ever want to try and manually calculate them. One of the things you guys should watch out for, I was asking earlier if anybody from the state was going to be here, because they do audit our title insurance premiums. You know that. They're looking to make sure that we're not only giving discounts, but giving the right discounts. And I had an opportunity to speak with someone at the state who had audited our files and came back and said that several of our, or a couple of our premiums were incorrect. Found out they were using the rate calculator online. They had a couple from different title companies, easy to get. What you have to remember is today's date is July 20th. If you have a policy that's within 0 to 3 years, and it was issued on July 15th, and you quote a premium, let's say it's 3 years, July 15th, and you quote that premium to your lender, and then you don't close until August 15th, it's going to jump up to the next tier for the 3 to 5 year discount. So it's going to make a difference. The discussion I had with the state was they kept saying, no, your premium is wrong, because I used the rate calculator. And I said, yeah, but you're auditing files from 2 years ago. And back 2 years ago, that was an accurate premium. They did come back and say, you're correct. But that does, so you have to be aware of that, just because if you quote those premiums and the lender doesn't get it done because the borrower's saying, I'm going to wait, I want to refinance when it's down to 3 1/4 instead of 3 1/2. Because we have amazing interest rates right now. We're going to do this one more time. We have a policy that was dated May 23rd of 2017. So that makes it less than 3 years. So they're going to get the maximum discount because they happened to close when rates were a little higher, and now they're hearing about this 3 1/2, 15 year, whatever. So that puts it in the 0 to 3 years, which is a discount of 40% rate. The original loan balance was the $186,250. And I know you guys know this. You know you round it up to 187 when you're figuring it. The premium on 187 is $1,141. That's, again, the basic premium times 40%, the discount, which comes out to $456.40. Now their new loan amount is going to be $211,000. And the loan premium, the 90% rate, because again, we've got to get from here to here, the 90% rate on the $211,000, what they would pay without this discount is $1,123.20. Again, you don't round until you get to the very end. Then the loan premium up to $186,250 is $1,026.90. So to get them to here, we take the difference, and it's $96.30. So to get them from here to here, you add the two together. I hope that makes some sense. So their total premium would be $552.70. Handwriting's getting worse. Again, you round it up because it's 50 cents or more. Now it gets a lot easier when the old loan policy is for more. When the old loan policy is for more, then all you do is figure out the discount and multiply your premium times that discount using the basic premium on your new loan amount. That one's easy. I hope that makes sense. See if I have a sample for you of that. If I had a calculator. So if you have a loan, I don't have a sample, so I'm just going to tell you. If you have a old loan policy that was for $190,000 and it's less than 3 years old, now your new loan amount is $175,000, so it's $1,087 is the basic premium times 40%. And that gives you your premium. Again, you don't use the loan premium, you use the basic premium. So you don't use a 90% rate and then take 40% off that. It is really important that we try and give the discounts when we can. There's a lot of reasons. The main reason is because there are consumer groups out there listening and watching, and they're paying a lot of attention to title companies and what our charges are. The state is watching. So if you don't give your discounts, when the state comes in and audits and they see that, then you're going to have some explaining to do. Fortunately, a lot of us do have access to getting copies of policies, and if you don't, you know someone at a title company or at Brand X that you can get it from. So you always try and get a copy of the policy. We call in favors all the time and ask for owner's policies, and if we can't get it, then we will contact the customer and say if we can get your policy. But we do need to give those discounts because absolutely if we don't, we are going to get those consumer groups looking at us. And we do have one particular person that is really looking closely at title companies and what we charge. And that's been an ongoing lawsuit for some time. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers to avoid these potential lawsuits, these potential people saying, you title companies are making too much. While I'm on the podium here, a lot of people, because I've had the pleasure of going up to the state legislature, a lot of people have no clue what you guys do. You know that. And if you're out in public and someone asks you what you do for a living, if you don't know them, you usually just say, I'm in real estate. because trying to explain our business, forget about it. But we do a lot. We do not just search a property and put out a piece of paper that says, yeah, everything looks good. There is a lot of work that goes into that. The list for escrow, which I think they're unaware of, which is why we're here today, is unbelievable, the amount of work, and it becomes more work every day. They just don't have a clue, so we have to make sure, we need to make sure they're aware of everything we do and that we do the best we can for our customers. Second mortgages, those are the 90% rate. Unless you can come up with an owner's policy, you know the owner's policy coverage amount, you know the first mortgage balance, and the first mortgage balance and the new mortgage balance don't exceed your owner's policy, then you can use the owner's policy for discount. Does that make sense? Okay. You're using the original. Well, you can, but you usually can find out the principal balance. An example is if they've taken a modification and extended their balance, and you don't know that their balance is a lot higher than they started out with. So if you don't know and you're going over that premium amount, so you do have to kind of be careful and watch that. Non-policy rates, title commitments. This is something that we have been, the state or the NMLTA has been working on. Every time you issue a title binder, title commitment, you may charge an additional title commitment fee of $100. So if the agent says, oh, we need to add the buyer's spouse to the property, and we're going to revise the commitment, then you may charge another $100. If there's an error on our part, then you don't charge that, which is unfortunately typically the case because we may get a middle initial wrong or spell a last name wrong. But the title binder, I understand that they are working on getting that so that you don't charge, because you and I know that sometimes on these files we're doing 6 or 7 binders before we get to closing. That can get really expensive. It got to the point where, you know, the agents wrote into their purchase agreements who's responsible for those binders and the charges for them. So each version they may charge an additional $100. Pro forma policies, each version of a pro forma policy is $100. You only see those on commercial because they are not to be issued on residential. So when your lender says, I want to see what the policy is going to look like, you can't give it to them if it's residential. The title search and reports and escrow fees are not regulated by the state, because I know a lot of the companies do reports, O&Es for lenders, search and reports. And then one of my favorite endorsements that always comes up is the restrictions, encroachments, and minerals endorsement. I call it REM. That is what we loosely refer to, well, the lender's always referring to it on their instructions as the 9.1, 9.2, 9.4. The lenders think that they need that endorsement. I believe that the lenders are looking at the endorsements in New Mexico, besides they're always telling us about California endorsements, the endorsements in New Mexico, and what they see is the language restrictions, encroachments, and minerals, and they think, oh, I gotta have that. So they can't. And I've had that argument as well. There are regulations that this endorsement cannot be issued on 1 to 4 family, single family. It is on commercial only. And that's a question that comes up almost daily. So whenever we see that on lenders' instructions, we scratch it out and put NA and NM. And when they don't believe us, which happens a lot, how many of you have gotten in arguments with the lender because they insist that they have to have it? Well, XYZ gave it to us. Usually when they tell you the XYZ title company gave it to them, they're not telling you the truth. They're just saying, well, I'm sure we got it on the last one because nobody said anything. But if you mark through their instructions when you send it back, then it may come up as a question. We really probably shouldn't just be ignoring it if it's on their instructions, because they can come back and say it was on our instructions. They can also say the California 100, the California 116. Typically, if you tell the lender what you're really looking for, I believe, is survey coverage, they're usually happy. The mortgage modification endorsements went up. They're $125 each. Most of you guys probably already know that because that's been going on for some time now. So when you're doing a mortgage modification, and again, we do get a lot of those now, the endorsement itself is $125. But if you are giving them additional coverage on the loan policy, if they're increasing the coverage and they have the proper verbiage in the mortgage, then you're going to charge the difference in the 90% rate premium. So they do need to be charged the additional premium. The reverse mortgage endorsement is $75. And this comes up because we've been seeing a lot of reverse mortgages lately. At least I think I've seen more than I used to. The reverse mortgage, the lenders are asking for a lot more coverage than what the mortgage is for. When they do that, it is really important because we've gone round and round with lenders on this one, and unfortunately, Escrow may make an error and say, oh, okay, they want coverage for this much. And they just go ahead and calculate it and do it. And because I've gotten that call, well, we did it on the last one. Well, just because we did it wrong on that one doesn't mean we're going to make the same mistake again. The coverage, the maximum coverage you can give them on a reverse mortgage is 150%, not 200%, 150%. So when they ask you that, and again, the regulation does state that, 150% of the total amount of advances as requested by the lender. Mechanics lien coverage. Let me go back to reverse mortgage though. One of the things, I know a lot of lenders ask for the variable rate endorsement. From what I understand, the reverse mortgage endorsement does cover that, but the lenders really think they want the adjustable rate mortgage as well. So you guys probably get that request on a lot of them, where they say we want the reverse mortgage endorsement and an adjustable rate endorsement. Mechanics lien coverage. You guys know that when the mechanics lien period has not expired, it is $3 per thousand. So it can be very expensive. So new construction, $3 per thousand based on the purchase price or appraised value if there's no purchase price. You find out whatever you're insuring it for, it's usually the appraised value. When the improvements are fully completed and the statutory filing for mechanics liens has expired, then it's $50. And of course, that's in your notice to proposed insured form. Construction loan policies. You guys know that they are now not construction loan policies, they're loan policies. And they are loan policies with a 2-year limitation clause in them. So when the reg was originally written, they kind of forgot to include that the discount, because people, you don't give a discount on a construction loan policy, because what we're charging them is $30 plus $1 per thousand. So that did get corrected, so the $30 plus $1 per thousand. And I do get that question too, can we give them a discount based on the construction loan or the loan policy with the 2-year limitation clause? And the answer is no, because that policy is so cheap, because the coverage is limited to those 2 years and can be extended for a maximum so that it's a total of 4 years. Survey coverage is, as you know, probably know, 15% of the basic premium. So if they have coverage for $250,000, your premium on your $250,000 times 15%. And of course, you have to have the correct survey. While we go through probably some more samples, does anybody have any questions? None. I do want to take you through a couple more of the substitution rates if we had time, and I apologize, I can't see that far. Because I know we're getting close. Again, the substitution rate. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to take you through it a couple, because you really do want to kind of get this in your heads, try and do it manually. So again, if you have a policy that was issued January 26th of 2015, and so that's more than 4 years, but less than 5 years, so there it's a 50%. And then the premium, the coverage amount was the $254, and the premium for that, for the $254,000 coverage, was $1,440 times the 50%, and you get the $720. So we're going to say their new coverage is $276,500. And the loan premium for $276,500, the 90% rate, is $1,388.70. The loan premium on $254,000 is the $1,296. So again, the difference between those two to get you up to the coverage they need now is $92.70. And when you add it to their discounted premium, you get the $812.70 over and over again. Does anybody think they could do it manually now without the rate calculator? Maybe? If you guys don't have any other questions, any questions? No questions? I gotta find the cap. Then we shall be complete. I gotta find my cap. I wish I would have gone a little longer. Do they need
No. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you all attended. Thank you, Julie, so much. Our next speaker is John Fox. He's with Southwestern Escrow in Santa Fe. John, in addition to that, he has been a real estate lawyer for over 40 years. So now he's going to be speaking on trusts and LLCs. And then after John, we'll take a short little break before our guest speaker.
Yes, you need to put both of them on.